Alright, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
USYK Fury hurdle cleared as IBF makes Hrgovic mandatory decision. So basically, Hrgovic was recently announced as the IBF mandatory for USYK's IBF title. The IBFR amongst one of the straps USYK currently holds. So it looked like Cali and Eddie were trying to put a spanner in an undisputed fight going through. But IBF have been in touch with the Saudis about the situation. Now they're saying USYK made a mandatory defense of the WBO heavyweight title against Anthony Joshua on September the 25th, 2021. Joyce is the mandatory for the WBO belt. So I'm guessing it'll be a little while before he's mandated for a shot. Wouldn't have been much of an issue because Joe Joyce is promoted by Frank Warren, and he would have perhaps persuaded a reluctant Joe Joyce to let the undisputed fight between Fury and USYK go through. But Daryl Peoples has informed the Saudis that the WBA title, also held by USYK, was next due to a mandatory. So they've rescinded Hrgovic's mandatory as of today. It says here, on November the 14th, 2022, the WBA notified the IBF that the WBA was next in the rotation system established by the IBF, WBC, WBA and WBO. The IBF agrees that the WBA is next in rotation. Based on the information provided by the WBA, the IBF is rescinding the order for Alexander Usyk to commence negotiations with Filip Hrgovic for a mandatory defense of the IBF heavyweight title dated November the 12th, 2022. Now they're saying here the WBA mandatory, which is supposed to be next, won't be an issue because Frank Warren promotes both Fury, Dubois and Joe Joyce, the WBO mandatory. Everybody's saying it's cleared a path for an undisputed fight. But didn't Tyson Fury say he won't pay the sanctioning fee for the IBF belt if he fights Usyk? He didn't like his treatment when he was champion in 2015 and they stripped the IBF belt for failing to fight Glashkov, his mandatory, after he beat Vlad. I've seen this posted up on other websites in recent weeks, but I wasn't too sure, so I didn't cover it. But IFL TV are quoting Adam Catterall from Fight Disciples. Adam also works on TalkSport, that Anthony Joshua will fight 22-0 Australian heavyweight Dempsey McKean in April. Now, whether you want to title this fight a confidence booster or a fight where AJ can find his feet again, it's going to come under huge criticism. Dempsey signed to Matchroom. He's an Australian. He's 32 years of age himself. He's currently living in Essex, England. He does have wins over Jonathan Rice. That's not a bad win. That's his best win. He stopped him in the 10th. 14 knockouts in 22 fights. Tall lad, 6'6", same height as AJ. They sparred together. Granted, he's nowhere near as good as Alexander Usyk, and if he was to cause an upset, it will be a long way for AJ to come back from that, no doubt. Well, he's undefeated. He doesn't know what it's like to lose as a pro, at least. These type of fights, the criticism is going to come inevitably. No one's heard of the guy. He hasn't really done anything that stands out as a pro. So you got to do a clean, efficient job, preferably get him out of there, and then people will look at the performance in hindsight more than the opponent, especially if you finish it impressively inside the distance. So we'll see where it goes. They're going to label this an easy fight, and I see what they're saying, but hopefully AJ doesn't make heavy work of it. But, you know, it's not for AJ to worry if people are saying it's an easy fight. It's not for AJ to worry if people don't like him or Eddie. Just got to go in there and be professional. I'll go one further, forget professional. You got to go in there and be spectacular. You got to go in there and be spectacular and do your thing. I hear he's going to set up camp in America because the new trainer has been decided. A lot of people are saying it's Derek James, but we don't know yet. And that's good news that he's prepared to travel to make the adjustments. There should be less distractions in America than the UK. I'm not really concerned what trainer it is, like a lot of people. The way I see it is desire, knowing what your goals are more important than trainer this, trainer that, trainer that. The hunger, the wanting to be in the gym and work with this guy and make a partnership of it is more important. That's my opinion, though. So let's see AJ prep the best he can. And let's not forget Dempsey McKean. This is a big opportunity for him, and he's not going to be complicit in rolling over for AJ. he'll want to pull off an upset. Well, let's hope there's less distractions in America, because people say AJ isn't popular, but I see a lot of people gravitate towards AJ when he's out there. That's what I see. But he's not over there for vacation. He's not over there to be the British guy who's a curiosity. And that's about it, really, you know. Like, the opponent has been selected, he's been selected. Deal with the critics after, if you have to deal with the critics. Don't worry about it. If they don't like the opponent, they don't like it. Boxers ain't really supposed to worry about the opponents. They're supposed to worry about getting them out of there, getting paid, and like the man said,
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Well, for everybody who said that Leigh Wood was looking for a way out not to fight MAURICIO Lara, you don't owe Leigh Wood an apology, but you, along with me, and whoever else was of that opinion, were incorrect. And Leigh Wood will take on the dangerous MAURICIO Lara on February the 18th, Motor Point Arena, Nottingham, on Saturday, February the 18th. Now, both men hit very hard. Leigh Wood coming off arguably the fight of the year last year, getting off the deck to stop Michael Conlan in the 12th. He's going to have his work cut out. We know what Lara can do. He destroyed Josh Warrington in the SSE Arena 2021 during the lockdown. The rematch ended in a technical draw after nasty cuts over the eyes of Lara that were put there by Josh Warrington's head. Now, Leigh Wood, you know, he's been elevated to full featherweight champion. He won't want to lose the fight in his first defense. And the fact that this is not a mandatory and is willing to take a fight of this magnitude shows his intent. This is going to be an excellent fight. Literally can't wait. They were supposed to fight September 2022 until Leigh Wood tore a bicep. Lara thought Leigh was faking the injury and trying to get out of the fight, and he said a lot of stuff about Leigh Wood as a result. Leigh's not too happy about that. He said it's personal. Lara has made things personal between them, and the disrespect he has shown Leigh Wood, he wants to show him what he's all about. And he ends that caption, and still. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick take on Rashidi, Ellis and Jaron Ennis. Like, okay, Ellis lost his unbeaten record. Some people believe he won the fight. Some people believe Villa deserved the nod. It's controversial. First L on his record. Ennis, Boots, went the distance with a Ukraine opponent who was adept at using his feet for defense. And it was interesting to watch Ennis extended. I don't think he did as bad as people are saying. At the same time, complacency or being a fanboy saying, oh, it wasn't as bad. It was. No, there is an issue. There is an issue with him, Rashidi Ennis, and a few PBC fighters. They're too inactive. And I hear Rashidi turned down an opportunity to fight Ennis. I'm not sure if that fight would have been on this card here. I'm not sure. I'm not even going into the reasons why he turned it down. You know, there's only 24 hours in a day, and I'm not researching all the stories. The bottom line is you turned it down. I don't need to know no more. But he was running his mouth recently saying he'll fight Ennis, but we found out that he turned the fight down. And I don't want to put too much disclaimers on what I'm saying, but one of the reasons they could be coming up with indifferent performances is not only the inactivity, it's they're basically just taking routine fights with no incentive, with no anticipation around these fights. Are they up for these fights? They'd probably be more up for the fight if they was fighting each other and it was promoted better. They are familiar with the PBC crown. They're more familiar to me as a British boxing fan than Villa and Karen. Why are these fights happening? These fights should be happening. You can't keep fighters motivated by giving them routine, mundane fights, and they're inactive on top of that. What do you expect? You don't expect stale performances? Of course you're going to get stale performances. This is sport. This is sport. Boxing has lost so much shit in translation. This is sport. You need the Philly crowd coming from where they're coming from and the people from Massachusetts supporting Ellis on the other side. Just like if it was basketball, you'd get the Philly, the 76ers against the Minutemen or whatever they're called from Massachusetts. You get the fans involved. The fans know these kids. They want to support, they want to see them do well. Ellis doesn't want to let down Massachusetts. Neither does Boots. You don't want to let down Philly. This is sport. And if you kill that aspect of it, you're basically going to kill the fighters out there. I can't dump it all on Al Heyman's door. You Because you got Samson and you have Tom Brown. You are not getting people interested in the fighters' fights. You're not getting them interested in their fights. And the danger is the fighters will start fighting accordingly. There's nothing to motivate them, it's just a paycheck. You know, you had Mayor and Baumgardner, and these are women I'm having to use it for examples for men's boxing in America. Who would have thought the day this would be happening? But you can see what it meant to both of them. You can see how badly Mayor is taking the loss. Because she didn't want to lose to a domestic rival. She just didn't want part of that. And fighters have to be in them kind of fights. They don't have to be world title fights. But they have to mean something. You know, you see what happened to Ellis? He lost. He lost. Because he just thought it was going to be a routine fight. And the guy came there and kept the pressure on. And that was enough. Could be boots next time if he's not careful. Everyone has acknowledged, I've acknowledged that Eddie has lost a step on the domestic front. Juggling all in territories. Good stuff. But the DAZN are looking at other options as well as Eddie, as well as Oscar. So the DAZN will broadcast Liam Smith versus EUBANK, not in the UK, but in other territories. US, Canada, Germany, Austria, Japan, etc. Will the DAZN stop there? Maybe they might put a Coley's next cruiserweight title defense on the DAZN. I don't think Eddie would like that. But what can he do? What can he do? They want to put content out there. They want to be busy. They don't want the network just to be sitting there, not putting on good fights. And it is a good fight. And if you can get that as part of your subscription outside the UK, that's a good deal. And DAZN are not just going to focus on real boxing fans. They're not going to do that. I'm just reading here. An agreement has been reached between DAZN and KSI's Misfits Boxing, which will see crossover matchups continue on the platform for the next 5 years. Wasserman Boxing, which is the Sowlands basically, they're all key components in this deal. And that's a long commitment, 5 years. It's a long commitment. So the influencer YouTuber boxing circuit is what a lot of people are complaining about with DAZN. Oh, I'm cancelling my subscription. Well, they couldn't make the cross-promotion fights that they wanted to make. They were offering people $120 million at the table and couldn't make the fights. What the fuck do you want them to do? Exactly. Wasserman have the best situation because they have this little Misfits thing going on at DAZN, the crossover boxing or whatever you want to term it as, right? And they've got Channel 5 where, okay, we can try and develop these prospects and these British title fights because the quote-unquote real boxing is just not sustainable. It's not fair, says STANIONIS to BoxingScene.com. The sport has moved on. He's not active. He's got injuries. So you fix your injuries. You come back and you fight other fighters who are in line. You don't skip the line. It's not fair. In reference to Keith Thurman, who is looking the likely opponent to take on Errol Spence Jr. for Spence's 3 welterweight straps. Well, it's not fair, but perhaps Stanionis should talk to his promoter at Pro Bellum why he's not getting that shot. Because without the say-so of Richard Schaefer, you get in a fight against a champion who's a high-priority commodity on the PBC is not happening. Schaefer's not batting for this guy because he's doing Al Heyman's bidding more than likely. Al's probably said, yo, just keep your boy quiet over there while we sort out this Spence situation. We don't know what he's doing, if he's going to fight Thurman or waiting around for Crawford. So now you could argue at this stage of Thurman's career, looking at the recent performances, he might have less ambition than a Stanionis and might be the easier fight for Errol. Between the promoters, the networks and the sanctioning bodies, there's a lot of efferys going on at 147. Remember when UGAS was trying to get at Spence after he beat Pacquiao to get his mandatory shot? Who did they put in front of him? Stanionis. Stanionis decided to step aside. Who promotes Stanionis? Richard Schaefer. Spence was left with a bit of a dilemma that the PBC would have struggled to spin. Either fight UGAS or Crawford. They went for UGAS. Rematch clause, in-house fight, easier fight than Crawford. Dirty politics, basically. You got 2 interim guys waiting for a fight with Errol Spence, Boots and Stanionis. They're just going to wait around and complain when they could rock up against each other and make a great night for the boxing fans. Why not? No excuses, really. Like, what is Terence Crawford doing? Virgil Ortiz is his #1 contender. Wasn't Ortiz supposed to fight Stanionis, actually? What happened to that? I think Ortiz got injured. Crawford and Spence and their politics, I don't think that's helping the traffic behind them, is it? It's really a go slow weight class right now. Fights breaking down every second. You got interim champions, which is supposed to ease the burden on the higher tier belt holders to make the undisputed fight. But we've seen Crawford and Spence not able to get that together. So you're just piling up these interim title holders sitting around waiting for Spence and Crawford, a fight that's took how long to make and hasn't been made yet? 4 years or something? Approaching 4 years? I'm only catching up to what Paulie Malignaggi's saying. And he said it before I did, but I didn't hear him say it. He's saying Boots showed flaws against Chakazian, but it's hard to get up for these fights when you're not getting your deserved title shot. And I more or less said the same thing. I didn't hear Paulie say this. I more or less said the same. How inspired can you be when the fights that you should be fighting are not getting made? He's right. The logjam with Crawford and Spence is holding up the likes of Boots, Virgil Ortiz, and Stanionis. They deserve title shots by now. Stanionis doesn't want another step-aside purse. He wants to fight for the title. That's what he wants. So Thurman just walks into a unified title opportunity with Spence on the basis of what? His form in 2017, 2018, when he beat Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. How comes he doesn't have to fight no eliminators or anything? How comes he just goes straight in? How is that being allowed? How comes he don't have to fight a Boots or a Stanionis or a Virgil Ortiz? You know what I mean? He's ranked number 1 with the WBC, number 3 with the WBA, number 5 with the IBF, number 3 with the WBO. But we all know he don't want no part of Bud.